I kept going from aunt to uncle and hearing conversations. Can you look after him? Can you take him? No, I can't. I don't. I was like, I'm not wanted. My mother doesn't want me. She didn't come. Everybody kept saying, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. And I'm like, my mother left me and everybody's fine with it. And I was abandoned.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition. Welcome back to the Life in Transition podcast. I'm very excited today to have with us Michael Carr, who is the Mind Alchemist. He helps people discover and uncover the barriers that are holding them back and then to break through them. Michael, this sounds like something that we all need continually in our life. So very excited to have you on the Life in Transition podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Art. I'm so excited to be on this podcast today.
Yeah, welcome. Jumping right in, and maybe it's some of the barriers that you've broken through for yourself, but what would you consider, Michael, to be one of the biggest transitions, one of the biggest breakthroughs that you've made in your life up until this point?
Well, I would say there have been several. And what people would consider to be the biggest one was what is a lot of people have as their biggest one, which is a change in career. Mm-hmm. But my change in career came as a result of bringing my personal life into my career life and starting to work with good friends and all of this, which sometimes doesn't work out so well. So when I changed my career, I lost pretty much all of my friends because there was a big division with my best friend and who we had started together. And I assumed all the friends would go with her. I assumed that assumption. And so I went on living my life that I'm alone and I'm abandoned. And a month after that, my apartment that I was renting was a condominium, and I couldn't rent there anymore because they changed the new law. So I had to find a new place to live, a whole new set of friends, a new job, all of these new things. And then arising out of that. So it's this huge crash that happens. And I say, because your life is headed in a trajectory that doesn't serve us. Who we really are. And that comes about in many different ways for many different people. So for me, it really was reinventing my life. I had reinvented the career that I was doing. I created a whole new set of friends, and I was in my around 35.
I was going to say, what time frame was this in your career? So you're about 35. So
I was 35.
15 years ago?
Yeah, I wish. No, I'm 63, so we're looking more at like 28 years ago.
Well, this last 28 years has been good to you, Michael.
Well, you could say it's been good or you could say it's been bad. I choose to say it's been good because it all depends on how we look at life, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I had that big crash in my life that caused this big transition, of course, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I didn't know how I was going to deal with it. And I didn't know how to get out of it. And
so this was definitely something that you felt at the time, Michael, that was externally being forced upon you, let's say. It wasn't something that you were choosing at all. It was something was ending, something was breaking down. And this was what started the transition.
Beautiful. Yeah. And when you put it that way, when I look at that transition, I can see it in a light now where when you say that everything had broken down, well, right before everything broke down, it was everything I ever wanted. All of my dreams came true. Everything that I said that I wanted, that I had been working so hard for, my whole life to prove my worth and value for myself, I had achieved.
So it's so beautiful. And I think so many people in that situation. So can you enumerate a little bit, what were those dreams? What were those things that you worked so hard for that you were sure were going to, if you achieved those, were going to make you happy? What were those things?
What were those things? So I grew up in a small town in North Carolina. My dad was a tobacco farmer and not even a successful tobacco farmer. Because it was whatever reason he wasn't. And it was a really small town. And in that town, I lived on the outskirts of town. So once I got to junior high school, I met a bunch of new people who were city people, but my town was like tiny. So I'm looking at these people like they have these grand lives, and I always wanted to aspire. So I looked on TV on celebrities and how they lived and what kind of life they have and how people looked at them. And that was the kind of life that I wanted. I didn't want to be pulling weeds with tobacco juice dripping off my back. So it was this whole thing that I saw it on TV, these successful people and what life looked like. You know, way back then when I was in high school, there was this show called The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. And he would have all these people on, and it was just, that was the vision that I thought was life and who I wanted to be. And I knew I wanted to be more, and I knew I had all of this stuff into me, and I wanted to go be it. And
so this stuff was this, you know, lifestyles of the rich and famous. You wanted to have money, you wanted to have a big house, big car, you wanted people to know who you were, you wanted to make a big splash. These were the things that you were sure were going to make you happy. And that's what you needed to do. Okay.
100%.
And then you said by 35, you had all those things. So walk us through that story a little bit. Like, how did you go about achieving those things? And when you got to that point, when you said, okay, I have all these things, what did your life look like at that point? Like, how did you get there, and what did your life look like?
So I had really great parents. They both died by the time I was in my early 20s. But
I'm sorry. Wow.
They were great parents, and they raised me to believe in myself and to believe that I could be whoever I wanted to be, even though they were tobacco small people. So I moved to New York at 23 with 2 suitcases, and I went to FIT, and I said, I'm going to be somebody. So I went to college in North Carolina. I have a degree from Carolina. And then I went to FIT to study fashion. I said, I'm going to be a great fashion designer. I won the Critics Award for the school year. I really dedicated my life, and I didn't know any better. I was just going to say I was going to win, and I did the work, and I won. And then I got a job with, at that time, Bill Blass announced over the holidays that I was going to be working for his couture division. And then over the holidays, I went to Paris. I was in a competition there. So my life was like amazing. Yeah. And, but I was alone. I didn't have a family. And so I was just kind of bouncing around, and I could always say yes. I didn't have things holding me back. I had this freedom. I didn't have people that I had to be accountable to. But I was going to work for Bill Blass, and I came back in December, and there's this big announcement in WWD, which is the fashion magazine, that says, Bill Blass is closing. And so that was my introduction to fashion career, and it kind of went that way. And then I had worked very hard and in positions. I was always a really good manager. So those kind of roles where I managed a lot of people always kind of gave me a background and made me visible, where I saw a lot of people, and a lot of people knew who I was, and people knew my name, and they would, question me and hire me for other jobs, or I was very visible. And then something happened. I started isolating. I couldn't be in pictures anymore. The camera started to scare me to death, and being in pictures and I don't remember what the exact situation that caused it was. I was so petrified to be in pictures, and it affected my life in so many ways. Like if somebody would say, oh, here, we're getting married. My first thought wasn't good for you. It was, how do I get out of this? Because
how do I not have to stand up in the wedding or be in the family photos or friends photos or whatever?
Yeah. And it's kind of impossible to do that if you go to the wedding. So my thing was, how do I not go to the wedding?
Wow. So your life really started to shrink quickly.
Yeah. And and especially in events, holidays, I would come to Christmas, come home for Christmas once a year, and so let's get our once a year picture. And I was just changing shirts 3 times, and I tell that story a lot, and people go like, "Oh, you're the guy who didn't want to be in a picture." Like I had bad hair. No, I wanted so desperately, and remember, this is the time when cell phones turned into cameras.
Yeah.
Social media happened. I didn't come onto Facebook until many years later. It's 2018. I had just turned my life into where I was petrified to actually be seen in the world. And I could not share that with any other human being, because what kind of loser could not be in a picture? And I was everything but a loser.
So a couple of things on that. One, did you have any understanding at the time what was behind that fear?
No.
Okay, so it's just freaking you out. You already feel isolated. It's freaking you out. And then you toggle between, and I'm going to call it based on my own experience, Michael, between Superman and shame.
Yeah.
Right? You have this image of yourself that you're Superman, you're high flying, and if I can't be in a picture, then I am a loser, using your words, which is not guilt or fear or having some chance to figure it out. It's just who you are. Shame is the difference between making a mistake that I am bad, right? And if I am bad, if I am a loser, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just who I am. So then the isolation, must have been crushing. Like, what was going on? What were you feeling at that time? Like when you had those situations, what was the tape playing in your head?
This is never going to end.
And if it never ends, what's the trajectory? Like, what's your life look like in the future if it's never going to end?
More of the same.
Meaning?
And more of and this was a period of my life that I actually tried to take it. I tried to end it.
So it got so isolating, got so much pain, such a bleak future that you thought it's just better to stop it.
Yeah. Just better to and to kind of have that it's a strange view of life when you start to talk about, that kind of, if you consider doing that. How do you talk about that? Because there's all this kind of judgment around that.
Sure.
And how did I come to it? Like, I'm a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
I am not afraid of death. I don't feel like I could ever not be. I feel like my existence will continue to be, no matter if I'm in this body. So I have a peace with that. I also have a thing now that I want to live. There's so much available to live. And I understand that there are some people who just see that they can't move forward. And I understand that place. And I also understand that there's somewhere on the other side of that.
So on the other side of the place where you get to, where there's no hope, where it's the option is less painful to check out from this life than to continue in this life.
Yeah. So my checkout was a checkout. And, remember, I was living an isolated life at this time. So how I was discovered was a neighbor. I was living in New York City, and, you have neighbors in your apartment that you don't know. You're like, hi.
Right.
But the way things happened was she had called EMS, and EMS came. And I remember in the ambulance riding and looking up, and there's this beautiful black woman, and says, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I looked at her, and my first thought was like, no, it's not. I can't even do this.
Right.
You don't understand.
So a couple of questions that I have for you. At the time when you felt life was not, like, the best option was to check out, was to take your life, what did your life look like from the outside? Like, if I had looked at your life in the newspaper or on Facebook, what would your life have looked like to me as a third-party observer?
Untouchable.
Untouchable in what way? Like rock star behind the red tape, behind the red, separator divider, or invisible.
That nothing could hold me back. Like,
okay, so your life looked like on a fantastic trajectory, rock star type of life.
Yeah, I came from nothing and made something of my life, and I became successful in a fashion career. With all the accolades and all the stuff. And I was a very creative person. So that outlet for me. And one thing where I became more and more successful in my fashion design career, I also became less and less creative, because now I became a manager. I became controlling all of these, helping people. So I started to develop people instead of clothes and that kind of thing. And when I lost all this, and I saw this lady and she's like, everything's going to be fine. And I was like, no, it's not. And she
Right.
just put her hand on my heart and just sat there with me. And I came to understand that the way I was lacking clarity. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know even what I was looking for. I knew what it wasn't. And so I knew that I had to start over again. So what did I do? I said, now I'm going to be an interior designer. So I used my fashion people. I started becoming an interior designer. And now I created a whole nother creative business to be a whole thing to make myself successful. And I did the same thing again.
So this time when you were in the ambulance with this beautiful person putting their hand on you, was that at 35 or was that earlier?
That was at 35.
That was at 35.
35, 36. I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fine. But in that same window. So the point that I want to make is that the life, for looking from the outside, your life looked perfectly fine. And most of the people that I know that have committed suicide or have tried to commit suicide, and I have them in both categories, their life also looked perfectly fine. Some of them, freaking amazing, like the perfect life, like literally family, beautiful family, community involvement, $100 million. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So the point is, I just anytime I have a chance to have this conversation, I want to take away the stigma on two sides. One is I want to encourage people around to pay attention, to really pay attention. And I also want people to know that it's the isolation and the shame that we have around the isolation that can believe us to make us think that it's going to be better to end the life than to continue it. Right. And I went through a dark night of the soul just this summer. I never really quite got to that point, but I would reach out to people. And it was to this point where some of my best friends, therapists, counselors, men's group, men's shadow work, compadres, right, would say, hey, all you have to do is keep breathing. Like, that's your job right now, is keep breathing, right? So that just do that and then find what pulls you forward and go toward that, whatever that is, no matter how stupid that is, no matter how illogical that is. But I think it's so easy. I don't want to say easy is the right word, but to assume that there's some correlation between how someone's doing inside and what they look like on the outside is a completely baseless assumption. And that can happen to anybody, right? And I want to, what I'm really curious about now too, is that you said, now I got to a place where I wanted to end my life. And now I got to see that there's something beyond that as well. And I'm curious about that transition. Like, yeah, how did you get to, because that struck me when you said that I got to see there's something beyond that. Like, when did you come to that realization? And when did you come to that realization? And what do you know now? Like, what do you, to steal an Oprah question right now that's popping in my head, what do you know for sure now based on that experience or even experiences?
Yeah, I love that question because the answer to that question didn't happen when I was 36. Right. Because at 36, I says, well, I can start over. It's fashion that sucks.
Do the same thing, right? You're going to do the same thing, but
another career and become successful. And I had all of my my business was word of mouth. My clients came from my friends from the fashion industry who had houses in the Hamptons in upstate New York, second weekend houses. And that's what I did. And so then I built this career, and then my business was word of mouth, and famous people, all of these people, and people look at me and say like, oh my God, he can reinvent himself so now I'm an even more superhero, right? Because I can reinvent myself and I can start from scratch. And then at that point, one of my clients hired me for a company. He was the president for a company across a furniture company across the United States. And he hired me to develop a program of installers of 70 people and manage them. And I built this whole thing. And that went well for 5 years. And then COVID happened. Couldn't get in people's homes. Couldn't go do this. So that job ended. I was living in New York at the time, and so that we just closed that department. So I lost my job, and I wasn't really unhappy about that, but I was like, because it was stressful, and it was very stressful, but I didn't know what I wanted to do next, and I was in a Home Depot in New York. I was going to fix my house up to sell it. And some guy says, oh, yeah, my brother-in-law is moving to North Carolina and everybody's moving down there. And I thought, I'm from North Carolina. I should move back to North Carolina. And my sister's oldest son, who was about 28 at the time, had been a heroin addict for 8 years. And I had only found out about 3 years prior to that. And I said, I'm going to go fix them and do that. And this is my life's calling and all of that. So I sold. I was going to move to North Carolina, help him get a little house and just like live out my days in my own private little life and not trouble anybody too much. And so I came down here to fix him, and I became public enemy number one because I wasn't enabling a drug addict that everybody else was. And I'm trying to do all this.
So in your own family, you became, people did not welcome the opportunity to change.
Exactly. And you were walking in a room and people like, hello. And they're your family. But like, I've invested all this money in my nephew. And so they can't kick me out. It was kind of forced situation to deal with shit.
Right.
And that forced me to see, like, I feel like I went all around the world, because a lot of my career was around the world, to find myself.
Sure. As is, I think, normal.
It is normal. I mean, it's the most cliche story in the world.
Right.
When you think about it. But when you're living it, you're just wondering.
Yes.
And
yes.
I pretty soon realized that, hey, I am not a kind of person who can just have a little house and live a little life and live a little thing. That's very unfulfilling to me. Obviously, I overcame the fear of being in pictures. I'm on, cameras all the time. I do a TikTok every day, and I still work with that because I still have that memory. And when you think, when you think about how do you get past that, how do you get to the other side? What is that thing on the other side? Well, it's something that you're missing that you can't get a hold of. And so you keep searching for it. And it becomes frustrating that you're not finding it in this thing, and you're not finding it here, and you're not finding there. All right, if you're not finding that, where are you looking? Maybe you're looking where you're looking, it's not there. So that learn to spend your life traveling the world, trying to social climb. Oh, I'm the best social climber there ever was. My friends tell me I'm a chameleon. I learned that. I had no family. I learned a lot of things by not having a family about families.
Right. But if you talk about like looking in the wrong place, like, so you had this thought about, I need to end my life because it's too painful back when you were 35. And then you continued to have another career for 20, 25 years or the similar career. So you went back looking for the external. Like it was the fashion that was the problem. So now I'm going to be an interior designer, or I'm going to be, run a carpet installation company. What shifted? Because it seems like your spiritual transformation was still not there yet. It feels like they were coming to that part of the story. But in that, I mean, there was 20 years in between there, between COVID and when you had the attempted suicide. Yep. So I'm curious, like, what made it worth living right after the attempted suicide, if you were still looking, quote unquote, out there for the answer?
So I was doing something new creatively. I was doing homes instead of fashion.
And you were back to doing something creative instead of just managing. Exactly.
And I'm an extremely creative person. I'm always doing things with my hands. And, I go down that rabbit hole a lot of the times. And I'm also very analytical. One thing that made me so good in fashion was I could spot trends. Everything is a trend. Everything is a pattern. So I was very good at spotting trends. And once I would see an emerging trend, knowing what's coming next, what's coming next, what's coming next, because of now we're starting to emerge there. So very good understanding of trends, which was easy in interior design to translate that and listen to people say, well, this is what I want. I want anything but French country, but here's all the pictures and they're all French country. People don't know what they want. They don't know how to describe what they want. They don't know how to use alchemy to change. Everything is energy. It can be changed. So they don't know how to do that. So I learned how to use all of these things in a material way, in a material world. In all of that, like how can you elevate yourself in that way in the material world? And I found myself also in a bigger trap than I was when I was in fashion, because I was in multi-million-dollar homes. I wasn't dealing with $39.99 and $79 shirts. I was, spending these really high budgets. And luckily, my favorite quote, I told you this when we talked earlier before, is by Soren Kierkegaard. Life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards.
Right.
And having lived enough life to say that this works for me, I can now realize right now, if something goes along that's non-ideal for me that I didn't plan on, I can just say, I know this, I'll understand how this is working out for me later on.
On the backside of it.
On the backside. So I can trust. Now I can say that because I've had this experience of having gone through it, of having hit what people say like is a rock bottom. And so many times we have to hit rock bottom. So when I came the second time, when I came to help my nephew, and I'm down here to create a relationship with my family, and everything is going crazy. Not only was that son, the other son and daughter were going off in fractures because that's how it happens. And I said, okay, what I need to do is to not hit rock bottom. Because I'm headed there. But what I need to do is, instead of going me to rock bottom, I need to bring the rock bottom up to me. I need to put forth some action to make some kind of commitment to that is so uncomfortable for me that it's going to be like a rock bottom.
Right. But instead of having to fall a lot farther, you can bring it up to you.
Yeah.
Instead of letting, I say it this way, instead of letting life choose my struggle, I can choose it. And therefore elevate myself from where I am or keep myself from falling. Like we're going to have the struggle, but it's where we choose to make it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can look at all kinds of people and see at how their different rock bottoms are. I mean, some people's rock bottoms are the end.
Yeah.
And some people's are just like, oh, well, I'm not going there. I'm not getting on that bus. No way.
Right.
And I think the whole part of growth is just, okay, keep raising up your rock bottom, like we're raising our new level, so our rock bottom.
How did you do that, Michael? It was really cool that you had that decision. And how did you do that? How did you bring rock bottom up to you, so to speak?
I said, I'm not going to do this. What's available to me now? What action is available to me now that I can take to get me out of the situation that I'm in? And I was kind of in a situation. I mean, I was not financially hurting when I came back. I spent $70,000 to send my nephew to therapy. I didn't really have to work, so I didn't work for 2 or 3 years. And I kept looking and searching. And during that time, I got certifications in coaching. I didn't really think I was going to be a coach. But I was just learning and learning and learning. And there became a job in the big furniture company down here. And they called me and like, do you want to work here? And I'm like, yeah. I never did that. It was sales. I've never really done sales. I'd like to try that. And, it's a big, beautiful store. It's crazy. And I went there and I started learning all these sales, and I started listening, and I started being coached. And they told me when I was there, you're an interior designer. You're going to be terrible at sales because you're going to waste all this time doing this and that and the other thing. The first month I went there, I won 2 awards: the award for making my first $100,000 in sales, and my first
in the first month. Wow.
and my first 150. So 2 awards. I was just doing what they said, and I did more of what they said. My second month, I made 139. And there's people who worked there 15 years, never made 100 in a month, 100,000. So I wasn't really happy, and I was this isn't really kind of the life I wanted.
Right.
And I said to myself, if I make 200,000, I'm gonna find another job because I don't really see myself this way. And so I was doing well. It was the end of the next month, and my friend from New York came, and she has a debilitating disease, so she's on gummies and all that. And we took gummies when she's here, and I'd never done gummies, and I didn't feel anything, so we took more. And the next day, I get drug tested at work. And it hit me like, oh my God. Let me check my numbers. My numbers were at 229,000
for that month. So I was totally in line to, keep my word with myself. My unconscious is looking after me. Right. I'm looking at it's not like, and so I saw that as like, this is the blessing. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take control of this situation. I'm going to own this. And so there was a new training class coming in, and I was kind of popular because I was a great salesman off the bat, and they were pointing at me, the star, who's now like a loser because just, did this. So I said, how do I not let this tear me down? And I wasn't been a drug user or any of those things, never any of this. And it's not who I am. I'm like, I'm not going to take that on. So it's 150 salespeople. I'm walking down the hallway, and here's a group of 5 people. I'm like, okay. I said, you guys, well, I've been let go. I tested positive for THC. I didn't fail anything. I tested positive for THC. Oh my God, that's the stupidest rule. I can't believe they're all agreeing with me. And then I was like, well, hey, And then I went and said goodbye to everybody who I could see. My boss was off that day, and because you get the call from the people and they just send you out. I called, and she's like, this is the first. I'm like, the first anybody ever failed a drug test? And she's like, no, the first time somebody ever called me and told me. And I'm like, hey, I'm living with integrity here. I became a rock star by being honest, by being true to myself and choosing to walk up with my head held high. Yeah.
And to be that person. And about 3 months later, I called because now I'm like, okay, now I've got clients. I can start doing interior design for them. And what did I do? I found the best country club in North Carolina, one of the top 5 in the country, and I start working with these high-end clients there. Same pattern. And I'm working there, so I have to call to see, can I get furniture from them and the discount and whatever. And so you got to get approved by the sales manager. And so the girl's working, and she's like, well, I called him, and he said he's not going to approve you. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll go somewhere else. Because he wants you to come back. And I was like, no, that ship has sailed. And I learned
and
my
that's
lesson.
not the way to negotiate that anyhow, right?
So I go in, they approve me. I go in to shop, and, 2 salespeople I know, one sitting over there waiting at the front door, and the other one there, and the receptionist. So I walk in, and one of the guys says, where have you been? And I was like, rehab. And everybody just cracked up. So I tell you that story because that was huge for me. To be myself and to talk about, getting at 60, I was 60, I don't know what it is, 60 years old, I get let go because of a drug test.
Right.
Like 5, 10, 20 years ago, like that would have been the end for me.
Right.
I'm having fun talking about it. Like, I don't care what anybody feels about these things or all of that stuff. It's, this is things that happen. And to me, it can be funny, and it doesn't have to be, thing, but it was eye opening. Not that I, have to take gummies or any of that thing, but it was just a thing that kind of let me know.
To see how you can live through an experience that before would have brought up tremendous shame immediately, right? I'm a loser. Look, I can't even work at a freaking furniture store. I get fired for dope, you know? 2, hey, this is something that I did. It's keeping me to my path, and I can continue to live my path. You know, that's, you know, again, how you see it. When we talked about at the beginning, is it bad or is it good in this time? I'm still curious, like you said, you got to see the other side of it. And I'm still like looking, because there's, I mean, a lot of good that you're doing. There's a lot of transitions that you've been through, but it seems like a little bit the same pattern. Like, okay, I'm going to use my creative skills. I'm going to, you know, do something that's creative until somebody pulls me toward the money a little bit more. Like when you went into being a manager, then you went into being a manager of this carpet installation crew, right? It feels like a little bit the same pattern. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I have a sense like you've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of spiritual growth, and I'm still looking for, where did that come from? What was that tipping point where you maybe stopped looking outside yourself for the answers, or, you know, looking to make money, or looking to have a certain position, or, you know, to go back, I feel uncomfortable in New York, so I'll go back and be the hero of my family, and that'll fix me. You know, the if-then, Sri Kumar Rao talks about the if-then equation of happiness. If this happens, then I'll be happy. When did you make that shift, or are you still in it? And I'm still also curious and thinking about, you said, I got to see that there's something after wanting to end my life. And I'm still looking for that too. Like, what is it that was after, and where did you bang into your spiritual growth? Or was it all of those things over those 25 or 30 years adding up? This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by MidLife Transition Mastery. If you have reached midlife and you are successful, you have checked all the boxes. You've done everything you thought you should do, and especially pleasing everybody else, doing what you think everyone else needs you to do. But you still feel like something's missing. Like you're coming up empty, feeling alone, feeling misguided or lost. MidLife Transition Mastery Explorer community is for you. Here we will build authentic community. We will learn about the 8 steps to mastering midlife transition. And we will learn and execute living life with no regrets in our second half. Please check out the community on lifeintransition.online/MLTM, Midlife Transition Mastery. And I look forward to seeing you around the fire in this community.
Excellent. I love that you're keeping me on this track. It's really great.
Thank you.
So, yes, it's still happening, but it did happen. It's always happening. So at one point, and it wasn't when I was 35 that I think I got the biggest shift, but it was a catalyst that made a change. And it's this constant change that's always happening that we have to adjust to. So what happened in 2018 is I was getting certified in coaching things, and I was really struggling with being on camera and being all of these things. So I was getting, I was honestly going to enroll in this other certification, and they have these, well, we're going to assign you with a coach, which is basically a salesperson. Real little 15-minute things, and but they are real coaches and they do help. And I decided I'm not going to take this class. I don't really like this guy who's giving it. He talks funny. And so the coach called me and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I was like, "Well, first, I just want to tell you, I'm not going to buy this thing because I can't understand this guy. He's from California. He's an upstalker." And I'm listening to myself like, what in the world are you doing? Mm-hmm. He didn't even say anything, and you're complaining, and this is a free thing.
So he's got some judgmental, and
very much unlike me. And he started asking me questions, and this was a 15-minute coaching call. And then at the end of, we got to the end, and I remember I was sitting in my grandmother's living room. I was 5 years old and crying, and my grandfather was like, "Calm down, calm down, calm down." And my mother didn't come pick me up after school. And it was hours, and she never came. And everybody kept saying it was fine, it was fine. And then late, my dad came, and your mother's not coming home. But I had to stay with my grandmother, and everybody's got to figure out everything. And my mother was in a terrible automobile accident. She was in a body cast for 4 months in the hospital.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was in the 60s. I couldn't go see her. Everybody, I kept going from aunt to uncle and hearing conversations. Can you look after him? Can you take him? No, I can't. I don't. I was like, I'm not wanted. My mother doesn't want me. She didn't come. Everybody kept saying, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. And I'm like, my mother left me and everybody's fine with it. And I was abandoned. Now, I was 60 when I'm having this thought and being put in this memory. I don't think I've ever really had that thought in the past 50 years consciously.
Right. But it was somehow driving probably a lot of your behavior, or most of your behavior.
Yeah. All of my behavior, like I'm abandoned, I'm alone. I can't be in pictures. I cannot be seen. I am not worthy. I can't go trust people. I can
And you had this realization when you were on this call with this 15-minute call with your coach.
In 5 minutes. And this guy's name was Tyler. I still talk to them to this day. And I was like, Tyler, how do I sign up? Because if I can do for people what you just did for me in 5 minutes, it'll be worth it. And it was. So not only what happened when I had that realization, it was like I was in Las Vegas and one of those card machines that I don't know what they are. That I've seen them on TV. They flip.
Yeah, that flips the cards over.
All those things going like this. And it was like I saw my entire life go before my eyes and all the situations where I had created myself to be alone. I have never had a long-term relationship, more than 2 years. My parents died in my early 20s. I lost my best friend, my job, and my apartment all in the same month. I created all of these scenarios where I was alone. I didn't talk to my best friend in college we lost touch on Facebook. And then when I did join Facebook in 2018, I found her and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but, and here's my number. She called me like, you are the explicatives.
Yeah, asshole, yeah.
I have been looking for you for 25 years. And I thought I just didn't matter. And all of those places where I abandoned people, I'm creating my own reality. I am choosing that. Now, I consciously was trying very hard to keep all of that from happening. I'm fighting, but I can never win because it's always going to win.
Yeah, and that's an old saying, what you resist persists. Like wherever you put your energy, whether it's a don't want or want, that's what we create. But how magical is it that you got to have a realization of what was driving, what was underneath all of this behavior?
Yeah, until this day, because I have an understanding of how my programming was, I can still go into situations and change the past. Like my father's family sued me when they died. We didn't get along. They're always making me wrong. They're always there. Okay. I have made amends with those people in that family who don't speak to each other now, and I'm bringing them together. And I have cousins that I'm talking to that now, and I'm having fun doing it. It's not a mission I'm on. I'm actually enjoying it. I'm learning a lot about my parents from people who knew my parents when they were younger, because I never got to ask them questions when they were, I was 23. I was in college. I saw my parents as like not people,
Right. Yeah.
So now I get to ask them about my parents. I found out my mother had an addiction to not Vicodin, Valium. She attempted suicide. I had thought that, but I never, because nobody talked about it. I saw from my extended family where I didn't trust them, because when I was 5, I heard, can you look after Michael? No, I've got to do this. Nobody wanted me. I assumed as a 5-year-old.
Yeah, of course, that there's something wrong with you, that nobody wants you. Not that they have lives that are crazy and they're trying to figure it out. Yeah.
And so I made sure throughout my life that I didn't trust them. And an uncle that I had been feuding with, because the story that I wrote is pretty dramatic, and that I tell is pretty, clear I was right. And about 6 months ago, we went to a family thing and he was there, and I just said, because I'd been talking to my cousin, his son, and from that I saw what a great dad he was to my cousin. And I also got to saw, like, this uncle was very smart man. My dad wasn't that smart. He was a great man, but he wasn't smart. And I'm an intellectual person, and I always looked up my uncle. He was the only one in the family, and he wasn't that person for me, and I made him wrong for that.
Sure.
Because I really was wanting something from him, and I didn't get it. So I made him the enemy, and I really identified all that. And so about a year ago, I just said, I'm not going to be enemies anymore. And I just was talking to him and smiling and joking, and he's there like, what the hell is going on?
What's wrong with this guy? Yeah.
And it's all fine. And the day after Thanksgiving, he had a heart attack. He's going to be fine. But you'd never know.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, right?
So
this realization about that you felt like you were unwanted and therefore couldn't be worthy of love and connection and friendship and, romantic relationship, all of it was underneath. And that realization of that has shifted, is shifting, both, as you said, has shifted and is shifting who you are, like how you show up spiritually in the world with your essence. And that's made a huge difference. So it sounds like since you've had that realization, your relationships are much, much better than they've ever been. Oh, is that true?
It's 100% true. And what you said earlier about, whatever you resist persists. And recently I tried to bring into my day-to-day personal life to stop resisting what is. To really just say, okay, what is the next action? I had a problem with my car battery that turned into way bigger than it ever should have. It wasn't expensive, but it was just a pain in everything that should have worked to get a battery out of a car into a car. And, the battery place is a half a mile from me. Everything is perfect for it to be smooth. And from the beginning, it started having problems. And so my mechanic says, well, it could be this, and tells me what to do with that. And it could be that. I'm like, can you just tell me the one step that I need to take to discover the next step? And I started doing that. And there was a week I was on 3 summits. It was 28 things. And then I was going away on a retreat the next week. And I just kept saying yes to everything. And it worked out perfectly. Because I just said yes. Okay. If that's the thing, I'm like, can you come pick me up to my sister? Oh, I can't come till an hour. That's perfect.
Right.
And then I figured what to do with that hour, which I wouldn't have gotten done if that didn't happen. And just saying yes. And so
to what is,
resist.
To not resisting what is. Yeah.
And so of all of that, like when I take all of this experience and everything that I've got and the coaching and the training, like, what do I offer? Everybody has their thing that I can offer. What is the thing that I can help people with? And it really is to find that trigger. What is the thing that triggered you? Okay, what was my trigger to not be in photographs?
Right. And that's why I was digging on that a little bit. Like, did you ever recognize why that what was coming? And underneath it was this feeling of, I'm not worthy. Nobody wants me. And, so I shouldn't be in photos. I don't really have the right to take up space or to be in connection with others.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love what you said about becoming friends with the present moment. Eckhart Tolle talks about that. Like, make friends with the present moment and see how your life magically transforms.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he puts it like your only point of power. It's the present moment. And thinking about it that way, like, there's nothing we can do in the future. There's nothing we can do in the past. Like, so why do we spend so much time there?
Right. And yet if we live in the present, as you said a minute ago, we can sort of reinvent our past as well. If we live in the present, if we take the actions that we can in the present with the relationships we have now with the people that are still living, or the ones that are tangential to the ones that have passed away, or whatever the case is, right? It can shift our present moment relationship to the past tremendously.
Which is the only place the past exists.
Exactly.
So you actually can change the past. And more so with that, like, you know, and when I remember that time, like 5 years old in my grandmother's living room, okay, the way that I remember it's probably like much different from when it happened.
Right.
Because I don't remember that 5-year-old time. I remember the last memory I had of that.
Right.
So we're not remembering the original time. We're always remembering the last time we thought of it.
Yeah.
So we change the story over time.
Yeah. And
even accidentally. We don't mean to, but we do. So we can now do it intentionally.
Yeah, in a way that's better. And that's I had a similar realization. I think I was 48 or 49 about something that drove my, you know, so much of my whole life. And I had the opportunity a few years later when I got to a place where I could be curious about it instead of critical. I had the opportunity to interview my parents that were in that situation, like, and talk to them. And not just, I didn't start with like that conversation. I started with, tell me about your life. What was it like being you? Where were you born? How did you, you know, both of them together. And I recorded that. When I got to the difficult part, I didn't record that because I didn't feel that was appropriate. But I asked about that. I said, I recognize this is my memory of the event. And I was, let's call it 5 years old, right? I don't know, 5, 6. Is that true, right? Or maybe a better way to say it, Mom, is that the way you remember it as well? And it was interesting because to have that recognition that it maybe isn't the way that I thought about it. But she said, I can't argue with your interpretation, which to me said, well, that's probably pretty close to true. And also then it probably happened more times that I just don't remember, that I've blocked out. But it is good to understand there are some core things, some core traumas that almost everybody has, probably 90% of people, that really drive our behavior in ways that unless we become curious at some point, unless we become willing to spend time in the discomfort, unless, you know, you talked about bringing the rock bottom up to us. But the only way we get some clarity on that is by, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, leaning into fear, you know, leaning into discomfort. In Workaholics Anonymous, or I'm active in, it said, you know, the time with the horrible alone, like to really sit with ourselves and see what it is and do the therapy or do the exploration, the spiritual growth necessary to find what's underlying that. So I'm a little bit curious. So now you've had this realization and then you've thought, okay, how can I help others to get to the root cause of this trigger, to find their trigger, and then I assume to heal that trigger or to become less triggered by it? What path has that taken you on, and where, you know, if we fast forward now, I know it's only a few years, but to where we are today, Michael, and I see these masks behind you, which always makes me curious as well. And how is that working in your life today? How is that unfolding? What have you learned, and how is your life different today because of that?
Well, I think when you think about helping other people, it's really people. It's been a hard thing because, you know, people like us, we want to help other people, but people have to help themselves.
Yeah.
And so when I was being a coach, and even as a manager, like one thing that I have to learn is that people need lessons to learn. They don't need to be coddled. They don't need to be, you know, taken care of. They need to be held accountable. And so taking forward people with holding them accountable, and I think we've lost so much of that accountability.
What does that mean to you, holding them accountable? What does that mean?
That they're going to do what they say, that and really it doesn't even have to be with me. Like when I interact with people, I really have an expectation that they're going to do what they say.
Yes.
And if they don't, they don't. I don't make a judgment about that. Now, the next time I'm going to be wary about that. And if the same thing happens, I'm not going to ask them. I'm not even going to get into a conversation about it because I'm not at that level. You know, and I don't mean it like I'm not stooping to that. You hate when people say, I took the high road. No, you didn't. You just got off it. You
Right. Just by
road.
saying that, you just got off
Yeah.
it, right? Making yourself better than somebody else.
But it's like, I don't have time for that right now because there's somebody out there who can hear something that I can help. And
Right.
so
Well, I mean, I think that if somebody, I call it this way, if somebody's not supportable, you can't support them. And that's not any judgment. It's just where they are at that point, right? And in that area of their life. I mean, we all have areas of our lives where we shine, and we have areas of our lives where we are more broken.
100%.
And sometimes we are supportable, and sometimes we aren't, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing I can do to support you, Michael, if you don't want to be supported in that area. And that's not on me. That's on you. Now, maybe I can help bring some inspiration or some learning or connect you to somebody else that at some point will either accelerate the fall to the bottom or bring the bottom up to you, in your words, bring the rock bottom up to you. But until you have a decision, until you make a decision about being supportable, really wanting to do something, then it doesn't, there's nothing more I can do.
Exactly. And that you may not make that decision until 8 months from now.
Right.
But if I spend
or 8 years or 8 minutes,
Exactly. If I spend 8 months trying to convince you and teach you, I'm just going to wear everything down. So it's like, okay, we're not there yet. I'm not going to try to force my vibration on them. They'll get there when they need it. So if you look at everything, like I started EST in the 70s, I had no, started all the way back then.
Yeah, I did ISA for a long time, which is a cousin of EST, Institute for Self-Actualization. I helped with that for decades. I helped put it together. Yeah. And there was a ton of people that were doing EST. I never did, but they were doing EST also in ISA in that same circle.
Yeah, I went EST and then the forum, and then when it became Landmark, then I went out. So all of that craziness, and then I went very heavy spiritual into like a lot of like stuff like Abraham Hicks and Seth, and it's very spiritual. And then I kind of said, and then I went into like scientific with Bruce Lipton and quantum physics and all of that stuff. And I read his book, and somebody, my intuition kept saying, go back and read Seth, that Jane book, which was like weird. It's an entity that she translates and her husband writes it down in a whole book.
So similar to the Abraham Hicks.
Yeah, very. Yeah. And it was written in 1976. And I read it the first time when I was 26. And so when I read it again, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was reading this when I was 26. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
But it was the same information that was in The Biology of Belief with Bruce Lipton. The same stuff. So it really is the same. And then when I had that core belief and I understood that, and then I started working on that, and now that was a core belief that shifted a big thing, but I still had built, that was the core, but I kept attracting other things like I can't be in pictures, I can't go to weddings, I can't go to this. So, it's like peeling those layers off. So it's still a lot of work. It takes time, and it's, every week of coaching, it's like, how can this go faster? Something is weird. Something can make it go faster. Like why does it take so long? Why is it? And what came up for me, it's like, cause I'm only working on the mind. Like I've done breath work certifications. I didn't get certified, but I took the course. Tapping, EFT, hypnosis, all of these other somatic body things. Okay. Some way you can get into the mind through the body. Because these decisions that are being made, these actions, I can't be in a photograph, is not my conscious decision. It is something that takes control of me. And I feel it like this hollowness in my chest, this kind of void, this vacuum, this suction just goes, the life goes out of me. That thing.
And that thing, I feel like, is something I know I've experienced, and I think everybody experiences. Some people haven't named it yet, right? What's the alternative? Like, what have you found? What have you done? What I want to say fills the void. I'm not sure that there's a filling it. What closes it? So what keeps the sucking sound from being, like the, the vacuum?
What closes it?
What have you found?
So what I did was I found a technique which is actually developed by Tyler Watson. who early in his life.
Is this the Tyler that you mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
was your coach? Okay.
Yeah, he is my coach, and I'm currently getting certified in his programs. In his technique, which his technique is a cellular alignment technique, and it actually combines breath work, tapping, and a couple other things and there's 27 different variations, but there's a really quick variation that you can do, which combines the breath work, the tapping, and other things to really focus on your trigger where it's happening in your body. So I describe that void. First thing to do is to say, like, okay, pay attention to my body. Pay attention to this feeling, because it happens. We don't pay attention to it. It happens and we act. And we're doing something. We don't know why we're doing it. Scrolling through YouTube. Avoiding doing the thing which is going to get us another $100,000, which is, oh my God, it's going to make me visible. Somebody's going to take a picture. I don't want to have that. So
So that's, I mean, that whatever you want to call it, his name's escaping me right now, but the put your money where your mouth is, and the writer of Legend of Bagger Vance, his name's escaping me right now, but he calls it resistance. I call it broadly addiction, like anything that we do for distraction from facing this horrible alone, from facing this thing that we don't know what is addiction. And then the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. All right, a lot of people say, oh, I was addicted to some substance, so now I'm abstaining from alcohol, therefore I'm no longer an addict. Well, it's maybe the first step. It's a necessary step because it does keep you distracted and away from facing the horrible alone. But are you connected to yourself, to others, to God, whatever you want to call it, higher power? Are you connected? And that's what, somehow it is, in my mind, the opposite of addiction, the opposite of the distraction, the opposite of the resistance. But what is this? So you said there's 27 techniques, but there's a simple one to recognize. What is that? I mean, you can play with me if you want to, right? What is that solution, or what have you found to be effective for you, at least? This episode of the Life in Transition podcast is brought to you by Transition Mastery Coaching. If you have made it to midlife and you're successful and you are going through transitions in your life, in your business, in your career, or in your organization, and you are looking to master those transitions, to make the most of them, to accelerate into the next phase of your organization or your life. If you're facing, challenges in your business, challenges in your relationship, challenges in your health, and you really want to transition those quickly, I'm here to guide you for that. And I look forward to working with you. And you can sign up for either Pinnacle Transition Coaching or Summit. Please go to lifeintransition.online/MLTM and scroll to see the Summit and Pinnacle Coaching, or reach out to me directly on my email, art@artblanchford.com. And I look forward to connecting with you and helping you to accelerate your transitions to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in the second half of your organization and in your life, so you can live your whole life with no regrets.
So what it is, once if you find that feeling, you start paying attention to that feeling. Okay, I'm just going to pay attention to that feeling in my body. Okay, I'm scared to death to go on stage. Wait, no. What do you feel in your body? What's in your body? Where do you feel it? I feel it right here. Okay, it's you can describe that feeling, but tap it to keep it isolated here, because what's going to happen, that trigger. So if somebody says, I'm getting married.
Right, all the alarms start going off.
I'm like, how do I get it? How do I get it? I'm not listening to, he proposed here, it was beautiful. And
right, you're gone.
I'm not, like you say, connected.
Yeah.
I've severed that connection. So I've created a disconnection. And what does that disconnection do? It keeps me from taking an action that may help me to connect more. What may happen when I connect more? I may put myself in a situation that may not be good. I may be laughed at. I may be abandoned again. Somebody may not pick me up. Bad things might happen. So my body says, better not try. keep yourself safe.
Yeah, which is some sort of distraction. So
Crap
go to the
might
distraction.
happen. Here's all the things I can tell you. They're all the triggers that I've got lined up right here, so that when they happen, you can a warning. You don't even have to think about it. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to tell you.
Right.
I'm just going to send you on this thing that's going to get you on this road, which is in the opposite direction of what your goals are.
Right.
So when we find those triggers, so here's a trigger, it's happening right now. Imagine that trigger, like if you threw a rock into a still pond, and those ripples went out. So those ripples are going out through your body, sending the signal, get distracted. What's on YouTube?
I'm not safe. Disappear. Yeah. Isolate and disappear.
Yeah. Oh, let's go play horses, or let's go, whatever addiction that you have. Like you said, addiction is not just to those things. We're addicted to not doing our goals.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, it's a distraction. If it's doom scrolling, if it's my addiction was adrenaline of work, right? The adrenaline, the rush of the work, that was my addiction.
That dopamine.
Right?
Yep. And a lot of people do that with procrastination.
Yeah, sure. Because then it ups the ante, right? It ups the ante. So then you have to focus and you get all this adrenaline rush, right? I mean, that's part of it, right? And then for me, like I noticed this still 5 years into recovery. I noticed it still over Thanksgiving of all places. So we were playing Monopoly with a family, got really uncomfortable because that's something I used to dominate because I had to be Superman, right? And I got to this place where I'm really uncomfortable. And what do I want to do? I quit the game and go work on Friday after Thanksgiving. And luckily, like I've grown to enough that I had this cousin there who I'm super close to. I mean, like super close. And he came out and sat with me and said, "Hey, what's going on?" So, I don't want to play that way. And so I'm just going to get some stuff done. He goes, "Yeah, but what's really going on?" And it was interesting to see that pattern as much as I've healed it. But how many more times, like when my kids were younger, on a Saturday morning, I would find myself at my desk because at work, I knew I had control, or at least the illusion of control at that time very much. I was the man. I could, make stuff happen. I knew what I was doing. And with my kids, I didn't know, and it felt like a loser. And so if that became too uncomfortable, I would disconnect from that and go into an environment that was a distraction from that discomfort feeling. Right?
So what did you need that you weren't getting?
I think the big one for me that I still wrestle with, right, was to know that I don't have to earn my right to take up space on the planet, right? That I can be worthy without earning it. And earning to me was making money, right? Making money, providing safety, right? Doing all these things, but also perfectly, right? It had to be just so. And everybody in my life also had to be just so, because otherwise I wasn't okay. Or my kids had to be perfect. My wife had to be perfect. My friends had to be perfect, like all of this stuff, because otherwise I wasn't okay. Right. And even sitting there playing Monopoly, it was the same thing that came up for me. But what's great in the growth that I've had the last 5-10 years is that I could immediately talk to my family about it. Say, hey, what's coming up for me is that I feel like if I don't win at this silly game, if I don't win, then I'm not okay as a human being. You guys won't love me, and I'll be, I'm not safe.
Did you actually say that before your cousin asked you what's going on?
No.
Yeah. And
it took a little bit of the connection, and him and I have been on the journey together. So it's so, like, even as it was unfolding, I had the opposite feeling of my tendency in that situation, especially if anybody outside the immediate family was there, would be like, I have to hide this, or I wish they weren't here. This is embarrassing. I had none of that. Like, I was like, wow, I'm really glad Jim's here, because I'm going to still do what feels, what's coming up for me and what feels right for me. And I know that we're going to get a chance to unpack it together, and move forward. And so it was actually turned into a beautiful thing and a deeper connection with those around, and a realization for myself. But that was because I was willing to be curious about it, to make friends with the present moment. Okay, I've stopped this, which wasn't bad. I ejected myself from the game. It actually wasn't bad. It was okay. It was also, at that point, that was sort of like a boundary for me. But to go to work instead, that was not, it's not that it's bad, but that interrupts the process, severs the connection, right?
Yeah, it does. And it ensures that the connection gets severed.
Right, exactly. And if I hadn't come back to that later, then that experience would have been a minor as it would have been, but for everybody involved, a little bit of a traumatic experience, adding more scar tissue instead of adding openness and healing. But because we came back to it within very short time, that day, very short time, it actually could be a growth experience instead.
Perfect.
Right? So we can have post-traumatic growth instead of post-traumatic stress.
So that's awareness.
Yeah.
Different levels of awareness that we're bringing into that. So when you have that thing, that initial thing, you said I could use you as a guinea pig. So that initial thing where you're playing the game, you're like, I need to take myself out of the game. Okay, I got to go work in the office and whatever. That's the pattern that you've been using. So when you do it, you pull yourself out. Thing is, okay, where do I feel it in my body? Let me notice that thing, that feeling. Let me make it real, make it tangible. You can say the color is blue, it's shiny, it's the size of a brick, it's light, it's whatever it is for you that you can imagine, because our intuition really works in imagination. I thought you were frozen.
No.
Our imagination, our intuition works on images. So when we can make it tangible, then we start to make it this thing that is a thing that's controlling us. Now we know something is controlling us, and we can, but how is it controlling it? How is it making me feel right now? Like, how does it, okay, I feel like a loser because I'm losing this game and I can't be a loser in front of my parents, my family, because I'm the guy who made it all. I'm the guy, or whatever you're feeling that is. And now as we're tapping this, we're tapping that ripple, and we want to bring some breath work in it. So breath work is the number one quickest way to control your emotions.
Yeah, to regulate yourself.
Through breath work. So we're going to use that breath work and do some like short burst of breath and then some calming breath and mix that in. So we're actually hijacking the system that usually just goes. It's like when we use the breath work and the tapping, we take a handful of little rocks and we throw it on those ripples so that we're making the ripples. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what my function is. And so you do that and you clear that trigger out through that. So now the trigger's gone because you've used your body to take the trigger out of your body where it is stored. Your body stores all of this stuff.
Body keeps the score.
And it's not just physical pain, it's all related. And so the quick part is to get identify the trigger and remove it. And you can actually reframe that trigger
by identifying it, by focusing on the physical sensation and then tapping on that location. So if I'm feeling it here in my heart, I just doing this. And
so when you've done all that practice, what you've done is you've reset the trigger. So the trigger 3 weeks ago I was on it was a group of us. It's like 12 of us. And one of the guys is from England, and I had said something, and sometimes we get heated, and he called me a prick, and I just kept going. I actually laughed. And all I could think of was my French girl that I knew from France who said she was trying to use that word prick, and she messed it up. It was so funny. I could just think of that. And later on, the guy was like, this guy was like insulting you and whatever, and you were just laughing. And I'm like, it wasn't a trigger for me.
It didn't trigger. Exactly. That was one where I was healthy, and there's not a trigger. There's not a button to be pushed, right?
And that's as easy as that.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And then when you can just be, and you can go and you can say, and you were talking about your Thanksgiving. I threw together a pop-up workshop on Friday, and 4 guys showed up, which was unusual for me. Usually I have 1 guy and like 10 women, but no, I guess it's Black Friday, they're shopping, whatever. But it was so interesting. And the thing that came up the most in this group was that feeling of I have done everything because it was right after Thanksgiving, all of my life to support my family, to be the man that I was supposed to be, to do all the things, and just gone along and just taken it. And when they said I should do this and do this, and everybody's saying that, and they say that we're wrong for all of this and bearing this and all of this, and I just feel like I'm not getting any of my needs met. Nobody cares and nobody wants. I'm like, all right, well, did you tell anybody what you needed? Well, no.
Yeah. Because that's also somehow not okay and somehow weakness. And if they really love me, they'd figure it out on their own. And
yeah, but that's the first step. And it's like, yeah, you're right. And you know what? When men do tell, oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way because you are a strong man. Okay. You want me to share my feelings. I share my feelings. And you say, don't have
shut
it.
them in a box.
You shouldn't have that feeling. And you should feel the way I think that you should feel. So
exactly. And I want to put a connection here in this conversation, Michael, because I think it's so important. Going back to where you felt when you were 35, where you wanted to take your own life. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, 80% of the people taking their own lives right now are men. All right. I mean, there's something going on.
And white men.
Yeah. White men, mostly successful, middle-age, it's successful financially, which is, we always
all
say
the
successful.
people who were supposed to be the ones we're supposed to
follow the rules and supposed to have it and supposed to have all the privilege and everything, except we find out something's really missing and we're killing ourselves, whether it's the actual suicide or deaths of despair. But I want to connect here because I think it's so important for everybody listening. Like, no matter how shiny somebody's life looks on the outside, if somebody comes to you with, hey, I'm feeling like this, or I'm feeling bad, or wow, I'm just so down, or man, maybe life isn't worth living. The last thing they need to hear is that they don't deserve to have those feelings because their life is fine. All right. They need to be, again, coming back to this connection. They need to be seen. They need to be connected. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Stay with me. Keep breathing. We'll get through it. And whatever it is, the start is with the connection and talking about it. But I think it's so important. I mean, like that, that woman may be saying everything's okay. Then you feel in the ambulance, maybe you feel, hey, that's bullshit. Not everything's okay. That's crap. But as soon as she put her hand on you and gave you the feeling, coming back to the body, gave you her positive energy to feel that, you know what, there is some connection here, coming back to that, maybe things can work out even if they're not okay right now. So I just think it's really important that if you're lucky enough to be in relationship with a guy, whether you're their partner or whether you're a cousin or a friend, and they come to you and open up, the first thing that needs to be is acknowledgement of that, and for them to feel seen in wherever they're at, regardless of if it makes any sense to you or not. It's not about you at this point. It's about them. Right? And a lot of stuff is not about me. It's about what's going on with the other person. But I really want to connect that because it's not logical. It doesn't make sense to people that are not in that space. But this, like putting them down or saying that doesn't, saying that doesn't make any sense, or how could you be there? That's only going to make it worse. All right, ignoring it is only going to make it worse.
And that's critical because we do that to ourselves too. So if you're the guy who reaches out to me and you tell me, I feel terrible about this, I didn't do this, or I failed this, and this is what I'm going on, I'm looking at you. Art's got a podcast. He just moved to he's lived all over. He's like this fabulous guy. He's all of this. And look at me. I just started being a coach 5 years ago. I'm just building this life. I'm building I'm looking at through that. So now I'm telling you, oh, you shouldn't feel that way.
Right.
You got it made.
Yeah.
You get it. And you said it because it's not about you. So when someone, and as men, when someone comes to you, another man, the most important thing to you to do is to shut up and listen. And if you sit there long enough and listen, you will open up yourself too. And you will start to heal yourself. Because it's not about you. Because that man in front of you wouldn't be having that conversation if you didn't need to hear it.
Wow, interesting. I've never thought about that as well. Yeah.
So a lot of the no, Art, you shouldn't feel that way is me. I know, brother, we're not having this talk.
It's too scary for me to go there, listening to that. It's too scary for me to go there. Yeah.
So how brave are you to listen?
Yeah.
When somebody says that to you? And then how brave are you to say, I need this need met?
Right.
so I can stay playing in this game. And usually it's just, I need you to just listen to how stupid I'm being right now. What a stupid thing I've got.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm abandoned all my life. Like I was never abandoned. My mother came back. She loved me.
Right,
she did all these things. It's stupid to think that way. It doesn't matter. It's just the way that you're thinking. So now that you know it, you're aware of it. Now you that root cause thing that you have, like, that is my root cause that I can go to. And it's probably not the only one. I probably got a lot. Yeah. But it's one big enough that if I always go back to that, it can fuel me in understanding how I tend to operate. Back in they used to say how you're thrown to be.
Yeah.
The way that you're thrown to be. It just came into my mind.
Yeah, and I think it's really important too. It is, like, I'm going to say, illogical in a way that we feel embarrassed about this, or this, we've let this pattern drive us. But I also want to say that, and I think this is really important, is that it's also served us really well for a time, or else it wouldn't have happened. So it's also brilliant. Even if it's stupid, it's also brilliant. It's also loving. And as Dr. Richard Schwartz says, there's no bad parts. Like, even these patterns, even these triggers, they came to support us. They manifested these patterns, whether it's alcoholism, they saved us at the time when we needed them. Usually as a child, they saved us. So it's not that they're bad or even stupid. I mean, they are in adulthood because they're not serving us anymore, right? But what I have found that's been so useful with addressing these parts is to get over the feeling of that they're stupid or they're idiot, or even resisting or pushing back on them. But as Dr. Schwartz says, is to embrace them, to see them, to get down on my knees so I can talk to that other part of myself that's 5 or 6 years old and acknowledge the good that they brought into my life at that time, and ask them what they really want now, or what do they want by bringing this trigger into my life now. I haven't ever used the tapping aspect, so to embody that, I think that's a new one that I'll add to the repertoire. But this is really, really interesting. Michael, we could go on forever in this conversation, but I have 2 final questions. And the first one is, if somebody's life feels like it's shrinking, getting small really fast, the way that you did when you started this transition coming on 28 years ago, what's the one tool? Maybe it's one we've already talked about, it's perfectly fine, but what's the one tool that someone can hit pause on this podcast right now? And especially as we've been talking about, as it affects men, it seems like so much more than women right now. So especially this guy that feels like they have to be perfect, but they feel their life shrinking really fast. What's one tool that you would give them right now if they put pause on this podcast and they could take right now to make sure they keep breathing, to make sure they stay with us? What would that be?
I would start to journal. Just start to write, because the answer is within you. All the answers are within you. So ask yourself the question, all right, what am I feeling right now? Depressed. Go deeper. Follow that thread. Okay. What does depressed actually feel like for you? It means I don't go out. It means I don't just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And well, what does that mean? And what does that mean? Or when I say that, does it mean I don't know how I feel this way? Right. Well, a person who did that, what would their characteristics be? Just try to identify what's all the characteristics of what's going on, and then seeing how is this showing up? It shows up, I don't go to church on Sunday. It shows up, I don't do this. It shows up, I always have an excuse for this. Then you can start to see the patterns. And what do those patterns do? And so you can see what's actually happening instead of what you assume is going to happen. So you can actually start to pay attention to what's really going on instead of what you're thinking. Because you said it perfectly. Our instincts are designed to keep us alive, to keep us safe. Right. Number one, it is so, we could be on this earth for like 2 seconds or 90 years. And it kind of all depends on how well our brain takes care of us, how safe it keeps us. Right. So it is very valuable. And when our brains are being evolved, if we're evolved to run away from saber-toothed tigers and other cannibals and all of these things, we've got all these warnings out here. Our life's not like that anymore. We have not evolved.
Right. But we bring the saber-toothed tiger into our bedroom with us, right? In our own mind, right? So journaling. So sit down, whatever's going on with you, sit down and journal about it. And I think that's a great tool. And I would just add that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't even have to answer all those questions. Just keep writing. And I sometimes when I'm journaling, I just write, I don't know what to write right now. I don't know what to write right now. I don't know. And then, but I feel like this. And then it keeps going. And then if you're lucky enough, maybe you have some two-way writing, where God writes back to you on the page.
And that's where you want to get. My first sentence is, I don't know what to say.
Right. No, that's beautiful, Michael. Thank you. And that's something that's accessible
and
to
get
anybody.
yourself an accountability partner. Get somebody that you can talk to.
Right.
And if you don't know
that connection that we talked about. Yeah.
If you don't know how to find somebody that you can connect to quickly, all right, go to the grocery store. Go see a friend that you work with. Have you ever felt like you're alone, that you want to talk to somebody? No? Okay, great. You're lucky. And then find the next one. Because they're there. They don't know how to ask any more than you do.
Yeah. And everybody, I can tell you, man, and I know what I'm talking about. I've been the big businessman. I'm the big macho adventurer, all of those things. Everybody wants an authentic conversation like Michael and I are having today. Everybody wants that. Everybody. Doesn't matter who they are. And if we can get over our own discomfort enough about what we think that other men will think about us, we can enter into those conversations. And I feel so lucky that I have a couple handfuls of men in my life that I can call and say, dude, I just can't stop crying and I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. Right? And then I can have that conversation. So yeah, that's, journaling. It's a way to connect with yourself. Go connect with somebody else, which is another way to connect with yourself. But everybody wants to have that conversation if we're brave enough to have it. So
and
that's
if
beautiful.
you're ready to go deeper and to have everything you want, get a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, like that was the best thing that I ever did.
And speaking of which, then, Michael, my last question is, we've had a very interesting conversation, and thank you so much for that. If people want to find out more about you, of course, we'll have everything in the show notes, but what's the best way, if you have one best way to connect with you, where is that at? What's that?
So I would say the best, of course, I have a website, but I don't think that's the best way. The best way is you can book a one-on-one session with me for 45 minutes where I can take you through that process. We could have something that's holding you back and release that trigger from you, and so that you could move forward. And 10 minutes later, you could go out and take an action. So you got to see how quick it can be, how easy it can be, and it doesn't have to be so serious. That's what I want to bring.
To do that? Where could they connect with you for that?
Well, my website is michaelcarrcoaching.com. And then the link, we'll have to put it in the other chat.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes as well, but they can get to it via the
and that's just a booking link. You'll go on, you'll pick a time. It's absolutely free, and you'll walk away with. I mean, you can discover more about what I can do and how we could work together. But you will walk away with a tool that you'll be able to use for the rest of your life. That you can start clearing these triggers out of you, and then you can start being trigger free so that more and more people can get out of this algorithm that we're in, that we're trapped in. And that's what's most important, to just keep spreading that. So it's a great
that's
tool.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. That brings me to Michael Singer, who talks about our main mission is to get the disturbances so the flow can come through us, right? To get the disturbances out, right? There's a bunch of rocks blocking the stream. Let's get the rocks out so that the water, the energy can flow through. And then we can respond to the moment, whatever the moment's asking from us, cleanly and not triggered. So very beautiful. So thank you for that, Michael. What a fantastic conversation. I love how real you have been in our conversation today, and that it allows us to have this really authentic conversation. Michael, I really appreciate it. That's my biggest joy. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you for keeping me on track and for keeping this, because I can go on forever. So I love a person who's focused. It has been amazing, Art. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.